Hello and welcome back. Today we're going to start a new game that I decided to develop. This game is going to be similar to other trading card games like Magic the Gathering, Pokemon, and Yu-Gi-Oh! But in this case, we're going to use actual baseball cards. Or at least representations of actual baseball cards. And it will be able to be played in real life with dice and actual baseball cards. But I'm going to make it in Excel. Follow along, enjoy the show, and maybe you can also learn something. We're going to start off with what is the plan today? Our plan for this video is to create the database of the cards, the stats that we want, and images of the card to be used later. So I opened a new Excel document and let's get started. On the right side of the screen I have the website tcdb.com, and on this website you can search baseball cards that already exist or should exist. If you have them, you can mark them off, and if you want to add to the ever-growing database on this website, you can become a member and do it yourself as well. Let's start with the database. A lot of people like to start on A1, and that's fine, there's nothing wrong with it, but I'm going to start in B2 to give myself some room. Maybe I'll put a header up there later. You know what, let's just cut in a little bit here. Let's go B7. Maybe I want to put a header up here later. I don't know. Now, Excel databases are fairly simple. All you need is the information that you're trying to portray. So what do we actually want to have? I have a stack of cards in front of me here. They're worthless cards, so we're not too worried about it. But for the purpose of this video, this is what we're going to work with. The card I have in front of me is Bo Bichette. I already looked him up in the TC database just so I can get a picture of a card. Now, since he's already in here, I'm going to go ahead and not have to type anything because I'm lazy. We're going to copy that. And when you paste, if you paste, it's going to try to use the format in which you copied. But in this case, we don't want to do that. We want to have match destination setting. This is the setup that I have in Excel. Right now, it's nothing, so that's what we want. We're going to title this column of data player name. The next step is to decide what data we want to maintain in our database and recall later. On the back of baseball cards, you have statistics. These stats include how many games were played, how many at-bats, and so on. For the purpose of my database, I want to have all of the stats categories on the back of the card, but I really am only going to focus on the total of the card, so only this bottom row for me. As you may know, there are two basic types of cards: a batting record and a pitching record card. In this case, it's a batting record. This is not the card that I'm putting in for Bo Bichette. That card is in front of me, but I can't find it online, so this is just an example. Stand by, and let me fill out the top fields here. Now, there is also information other than the stats that I might find important for what I'm trying to develop toward. In this case, we can see here he bats left and he throws right. The series of the card might be important. The fact that he's a shortstop. The card team, in this case, Los Angeles Dodgers. Now there's height and weight. I don't find that important for my game, but It's your database. Whatever you think is important is what we're going to put in here. Maybe even the dialogue on the card. So let me put in some extra fields here for that. Okay, now we added in the series for the card, the batter's hand, throw hand, team position, and I believe we can put comments on the end, comment section. Now, this is just for a batter card. Instead of making two different databases, we're just going to add different fields. And then for any information that is not for the card that we have, we don't need to write it down. Oh, we could put a card type. And that's going to be important because if we have a bunch of zeros, it's going to throw off numbers. So we can check for the type of card later. We will add it here to say pitch or bat. So this will just be a pitching card or a batting card, and then the rest of it is going to be what the regular card is. Since this is going to be a one or the other thing, we can actually use data validation. The easiest way to get to data validation, well, there's a few ways. We could go data and data validation, and it pops up. Or we could be lazy and use our keyboard shortcut. Press Alt and let go, press D and let go, press L and let go, and it comes up. That's Alt D L for your shortcut for data validation. In here, we can restrict what is able to be put into this cell. It could be numbers or text or anything else we want. In this case, we want to do a list. Our list is only going to be two options, which is pitch and then a comma, bat. Actually, don't use your arrows. Actually, we'll do pitcher or batter card, just because that's what I like to see. Now, in here, we can type whatever we want, but if we try to save it, it won't let us, because now that does not match our data validation. It's got to be either pitcher or batter. So we can either type it in correctly with the correct case format and all that, or we just select it. Now I don't have to worry about it. And if someone else goes to update this, they can see what I'm trying to have as an option here. Now stand by and let me enter in the data for my Bo Bichette card into my database. Moving on. My typing skills are atrocious. We don't need to worry about that. One thing that I needed to add is that I had series for the number, but I want to know what series type it is and what number of the card in the series it is. So in this case, it's Heritage Series, card number 153. So if you had Heritage Series 153 or 2, it would also be Bo Bichette. So, also, is he right or left-handed? Pitcher or batter. Now, we did the same thing here, pitcher and batter, but on this one I did right, left, or switch hit, or switch pitch. That's actually what I wanted to do. So on this, I was able to copy the data validation, and now that data validation is also here. Same list, same everything. Now, they do not matter with each other. They don't care what the other one is. He is a right-handed. It didn't tell me how many games. So this card, and I've noticed with other cards, they don't all have the same numbers on the back, but every card has an average, how many times at bat. There are other data points that we want to hit on this as well, but for the sake of this card, I'm going to say it didn't have anything, so I'm just going to put an X. I'll just put X because we don't want a number. Later, when we look at our numbers, I don't want a bunch of zeros to change an average. So in this case, we'll just put X because that doesn't make any sense. And then when we use our formulas later, we'll use a formula that doesn't require the cell to have a number, just that the cell has a variable that can be determined on if it is a number or not, and what number it can be. It'll make sense later. Don't worry about it. So now I have my Bo Bichette card and all of the information from that card. One of the things that we want to do if we're making a database is that we don't want to come down here and redo our cells if we have formulas in here, right? One thing you can do on, for example, this cell, let me zoom in, is, whoops, that's not zooming in. And now move over to the left. One thing you can see here, when you have data validation, obviously you have your drop down, and it drops down. If you wanted to move that data validation down, you can copy and paste if you want. Or you can take this little square right here. You see the cursor is a fat plus sign. You can do a thin plus sign. That means that you can click and drag it down, and it will carry on with the information above. So in this case, now I can do all this. I don't have to type it in every time. One of the other interesting things is now that data validation is there. So if we wanted to get rid of these cells, either we can right-click, highlight, right-click, and delete the cell, or we can just go to data validation, Alt-D-L, and then it says, hey, some of these cells have data validation and some of them don't. Do you want to extend the data validation to these cells? Hit yes. Now, what data validation do you want? We just want allow any value. Hit OK. Now it's all gone. No data validation at all. That's a quick way to fix that. For things like numbers, this is 152. If I click and drag that down, it says 152. But if I were to say 153, and then highlight both of those and click and drag down, what do we get? 154. It assumes you are doing numbers in a certain predictable and expected way, and it will do that for you. Sometimes we want that. Sometimes we don't want that. Now, funny thing, you could do like 1, 1, 2, 2. Now it sees a pattern, right? Now we have a pattern. It doesn't know that pattern. So it's going to try to figure out what the difference between these are. It has built-in pattern. So you got Monday. And then if we click and drag down, Excel thinks, oh, you might want a Tuesday as the next one. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. We can keep going down. Now we have all the days of the week. If we didn't want to do that, those are things to pay attention to. Sometimes if you use your plus sign to drag things, it'll do stuff in strange ways that you're not expecting. And sometimes it does exactly what you want. just keep it in mind. If it doesn't work for you, then don't use it for that specific thing you're trying to do. In this case, remove. Oh, we don't want to keep redoing the same work over and over. We want to have it, we want our data to be easily updatable and recallable. So one of the easiest things we can do is make what's called a dynamic table. There are two basic types of tables in Excel. This one specifically is a static table. That means it is not expecting to get any bigger. This is the table, this is the data in the table, and you can have fun. Now, if we wanted to, we can name this table by highlighting the whole thing, give it a name up here. We'll call it stats. And then, now, if we wanted to reference that cell or that table, it's right here. These are the names of your named ranges, and you can select them. Or you can press F3. Here's our name lists. Now in this case, it's a whole table. That's fine. If we hold Control and press F3, we'll get our named manager list. And this is all the list of the named ranges and tables that we have in our workbook. In here, we can edit the name of the range or table if we wanted to, and we can change what the reference is. In this case, it's saying sheet 1 B5 to X6. But that's a static table. The problem is, if I were to put more data under that after I already named this table, it doesn't know that the table got any bigger. So let's remove this and start over. Now, remove it from that list, hit close. It's also removed from this list. Now, the reason I'm saying all this is, if I were to put, let's say, Bo Jackson, because I know he knows baseball. Bo knows baseball. And if I want to say he is a shortstop, the problem is, this is supposed to be only pitcher or batter, but now I was able to type shortstop, so I typed it there. This is not what you want in your data. You want the predictability and the constraint of updating and referencing data so you don't screw it up. The easiest way is to create a dynamic table. To create a dynamic table, all you have to do is highlight your table. Simply highlight the whole thing, or if you want to use a little fancy trick I like, after you select the top left corner of your table, hold Control Shift, press right on the arrow, and it'll come all the way across until it sees no more data. Let go of the right arrow, just press it one time, and then press down one time. I highlighted my whole table. So you can quickly, without having to look or having to scroll left and right to see how far it goes, you can quickly just go, well, my table is that big. Now that your table is highlighted, hold Control and press T. This will want to create a dynamic table. It's telling you that it's got from B5 to X6, and I already have the headers of my table. So I'm going to keep that selected as my table has headers. If you don't do this, it will add headers for you, but they will just say column 1, column 2, column 3, and it looks like garbage. So I already did it. Let's hit OK. Now, you can discover more about your data if you want to. Don't care. Moving on. Some people don't like the default color blue on blue from Microsoft, and some people do. It's totally fine. But up in here, under Table Design, you can select your table styles. Maybe you want yellow. Maybe your company is this color, orange and light orange. Black and white, totally fine. You can select any number, and you can create custom ones. If you have a company that has a very specific style, type of colors, by all means, get in here, make yourself a new table style, and it'll be selectable as a custom table style. Personally, I'm going to go with just the default blue. Usually I just go with nothing, but for the sake of this video, because you guys probably don't want to see a table full of nothing, we'll make it blue. And I like this one. Now, if we look real close to the right corner of my table, you see here we have an L. It's like an L shape in the bottom right corner of the lowest cell that has data. What that means is if we were to click and drag this down, that just made my table bigger. Not only did it make it bigger, it also brought down my data validation. If I were to have a formula in here, it would bring the formula down as well. So it's exactly what we want. You don't have to even click and drag it down. You can. You don't have to. Instead of clicking and dragging down, all we have to do is pick any cell below this and just type something in there, hit enter. It automatically brings it down for us. And we still have our data validation. That is why dynamic tables are so much better. There's also other reasons for formula reasons, and we'll talk about that later. But I'm going to stop this video here and enter all my baseball card information into these cells for the next video. In the next video, we're going to discuss how to make this a searchable database and maybe add more things that we want to see in it. I'm thinking a way to break up the last name and the first name, so it making searching easier. We could do that. Possibly add images for the baseball cards. We can do that, so we can, when we select the baseball card, we can actually see it, and that'll be in the next video. If you have any suggestions on what I should add, take away, or change, by all means, let me know in the description, in the comment section. I'm the one that writes in the description. You can write in the comments. Thanks for watching.